Hi, this is Susan. Welcome to my doctor's office. Let me show it to you. This is set in like 1935 through 40s, early 40s. And the doctor is teaching the intern everything that he does. And the nurse is taking inventory of all the medications and things they use in the doctor's office. And I started out with my doctor's office in a football display box. And then I divided that in half to get a waiting area. And that was too tight a squeeze. So then I went to another box. And then I finally ended up, you can see the waiting area over here. We'll go through that. My little elderly couple, I just think they're adorable. I love putting all these little resin figures in. I think it just makes it real homey and tells a story. But how this started out was my grandmother used to tell me a story. She'd tell me stories about my mom when she was young. My mom was quite a character. And my grandparents had the town store. And so everybody knew them. They didn't have a child, and so they were on a list, and in 5 years, finally their name came up on the list, and the doctor came and said, there's a child in a bigger town. And my grandmother didn't even give my grandfather time to think about it. She was ready to go and check out the baby and the mother and everything. And so so my mom was about 5 years old. She'd gone through some medical issues, real serious ones, when she was a baby. And so she was hesitant to want to ever go to the doctor. And so my grandmother was taking her to get a flu shot, and she said that she would go first and show her it didn't hurt and that she was going to be fine. And so while the doctor was with my grandmother, my mother takes off running down Main Street. And so Dr. Baker went chasing her down Main Street of this town where everybody knew everybody. And he's running holding a syringe because he knew he had one shot at giving her a vaccination. And so he chased her to catch up with her. And I just think that's the funniest sight. And I can imagine, that and just how much everybody talked about it. And I just think that's so funny. So let me tell you about this box. I made it from scratch. It was just some old wood that literally it was old and been sitting outside. And when you let wood sit outside, it gets kind of ripply. And so I wanted to texture it to kind of disguise that. You can see it over here on this wall. But so I used some corner trim right in here. This holds, it's on each side, and then this trim is for screen doors, I believe is what they call it. It's a flat, rounded, on each side, but flat on the back. And so I used that all on the top as well. You can see up here. And the whole reason I put the plexiglass was to keep the dust off of it, but also just to be able to see in everything. Now here's the room in the back. And we'll try to see it further down in from the side window. But I wanted to be able to see everything with natural light. And so so then the front has there's a front plexiglass that fits into these two sides. It tucks in to each side that covers for dust. So let's go through the miniatures. Lately I've been making miniatures still. I always like when I get into where I don't know what I want to do next, or I'm at a pause in some other project, I'll just make a mini for in here. I just, always come back to this. And, it started out in a football case and just got bigger. And so I just finally made this box, and I started to make like a little dressing area back here. And it ended up being a room in front of a room, because I thought, well, he needs a place to wash his hands, use the restroom, as well as a little area to dress. So you can see the screen, and there's the dressing gown on the hook behind the screen. So the screen was one of the first things I ever made, miniatures. So let me just show you these different miniatures, because you can make these out of clay and out of trash plastic and paper. Like this is just made out of paper and just made like a milk carton. It says plaster of Paris. And I just rolled up some gauze. And I did buy these little scissors. I did buy those, and they're really cute. Little minis. And this bowl was super simple. Made it with pill pack that was, I think it was my dog's flea medicine. And so I have 2 dogs, so I just took clay and put it and squeezed it between it and got the shape. And then I made one over the back of the plastic, which I could have made it with these plastics, but I wanted to keep them. So that's how I got the shape. Super simple. And then you work on using a sanding file to sand it up and go around, and then paint it with a gloss, or put your paint in your Mod Podge and get it glossier. And then go around the edge to blacken it, and then add some little rust spots in. So super simple, just fun. And you can make bowls with paper quilling. I tried that as well. And that's just strips, literally just little strips of paper that I cut them just freehand, and you just make a coil, and you can sand the coil, or, sand off any stray paper. And I don't measure or any of that. I just cut little strips. And so I just glue them together and then start coiling. And this again is just Mod Podge the inside while you work on using a nail file on the outside after you get your shape. And you just literally just push in. And there's a lady that does paper quilling miniatures, and she's just fantastic. But this is just the most basic. This is just the easiest basic if you want to just make bowls for a little doctor's office. You can use trash plastic. If you can find some tubing, plastic tubing, little plastic trays, blister pack trays. You can just make all kinds of things out of just trash. Here's another shape of one I was just recently working on. It's like a little bit lower. So those are, I'm not good. I mean, I don't know how to do the fancy stuff in quilling, so that's just a super simple. So my setup, I said the doctor's teaching the intern and the nurses taking the inventory. So let's look at the miniatures while they're doing all that. So this was my table. I had picked out in this antique one that was from the 30s, and it was really nice. It had a lot of doors and drawers, and it had a piece that came out on the back end and drawers there. But I couldn't put miniatures underneath if I built that, and it would be heavy in the room. Now, I did originally build this with this at the bottom, but then it started looking like a kitchen table to me, so I took that off. And it would have been okay to leave that on there, but I just wanted the space to put miniatures underneath it. And you can see I whittled something. I want to show you just how I did that. But I got these little gloves. They did have vulcanized rubber back then, so I got these little gloves off Temu. And this was another pill pack piece that I, just replicated the shape with clay. And I made the little box was made to hold one of the doctor's special tools that he had ordered. And you just take little shavings of wood and put them in there like salvia. But it's just made out of popsicle sticks. Just real simple. I've got putty on everything. That you can see I got putty on everything to hold things in place. But that's just something simple. Now, if he was to need this to use his table for a patient, then he's got a stool to help them get up on the table. And that sits underneath the table. And I made this box because this was such a neat bottle. I think this was a real pretty little bottle that I found on Temu. So I made a little box, just a little basic box, and used a piece of leather, faux leather, for the hinge on the back. You can use dryer sheets after they've been through the dryer, and I'll show you that. But I wanted something cute for his bottle. And he he compounds medicines for people, so he needs to have bottles. Now, the thing that dates a lot of dioramas is the telephones, the refrigerator, the stove. Pretty much tells you, and what kind of lighting, if it's gas lighting or candle lighting, of course. Here's this box. I started making this miniature last night. The candlesticks, I was looking at the dates on the phones, and the candlestick type phone right here, it requires bells. So I made this little box last night. I haven't put the pieces in it. I'll get onto that when I have time to look for the shapes of pieces. But I just used some beads on there to look like bells. It has a little crank on the other side, and I just used some jewelry cotton cord to come down to the telephone. And so I made 2 boxes. This is the other one that I thought I'd make it for one of the children or something to play with. But I used a piece of just the tiniest little piece of dryer sheet to go on the back, because unlike this other box, the other box has it up the top and on the back of but this, you don't want to put the dryer sheet on the front of the box, so you have to put it on the inside. So once you paint over this, it won't show so much. But that's how you can use dryer sheets, is to put it on the inside of the box and have it come out and be on the outside. And that gives you that hinge. Now, if you're going to have things hanging, you need to, because of the weight, you need to put a little piece of wood so that it won't pull the door down. That kind of helps hold the weight of anything you have hanging on it. So let's keep looking at things in here. So I've got the cute little chairs. I figure he has them sit in the chair and he takes all their vitals and then he discusses their complaints. And he was too short for his chair, so I had to build up his foot to hold him in place. And I find that's kind of the case. They're either too wide sitting in the chair, these resin pieces, or they're too short for the furniture. I've got all the pieces held with putty. I have had a little trouble with the putty pulling up the flooring. When I pulled the nurse away to dust, she pulled away the floor. But they don't make them, the feet aren't steady, and so my intern fell over and it broke his neck. I had to do surgery on him, put him back together. This was one of my very first miniatures. And, you know, in the hospitals, how they always have these between the beds. I love the old movies. I've said that before. But this was just using probably, these were probably chopsticks or something, and then just some little trim that angled and made it steady at the bottom. And then this was just some muslin fabric I had left over from a costume. And so I thought that was something fun to make. I made the little trash can the other day to hold the little gauze pieces. Now this, I made this. I just love making stuff for this doctor's things. I don't know, it's just kind of an obsession. I'm running out of room. This is just a little fabric I got at the thrift store. That's I made a gown in case somebody had to put on the gown to get on the table. We'll just leave it on the hook. There it is. Now this is a farmhouse hutch, and I liked it especially because, let me back up here. I really liked it because it could hold so much. Let's see. But also because this came out, and so that gave more surface area to put all of his bottles. And I've been collecting these. When I used to sell like 20 years ago, whenever I'd sell something, I would like buy myself a couple of little minis to go in my collection for this. I always wanted to do this doctor's office. And I'm sure, you know, you've always liked one thing more than all the others. And so this was the one thing I knew I wanted to do. So I gathered up all these. And a lot of these are Royal Miniatures. And let me show you their tag. This might be something you recognize. They're out of Panorama City, California. But I don't know if you'll see them online or through the catalogs. When I sold, they were sold through another catalog, a big one. And I sold online. And then also but you can make a lot of these miniatures out of trash plastic, and any tubing you can use, you know, parts. I'll show you in a little bit. But like, here's another one of this says Sherman Oaks, California, but it is Royal Miniatures. And it says made in Taiwan. Now, I've had these for quite a while, so I don't know what I don't know why that's a different part of California, but maybe that's a warehouse or something. So anyway, these are those little fairy bottles and little Temu candy chips that slices that I got recently. Made a little candy jar. And I got a little blanket in here that's just a piece of a large cross stitch or something that looked like it'd make a good blanket. So then just little gauze I've rolled up, and up here is his microscope. He's a duck hunter, so I've got ducks throughout just to warm it up and make it personal for him. And I love this little radio. I've had this a long time. This was something they sold at Hobby Lobby, and I just love that little radio. It's just the simplest little miniature. They used to have such good miniatures at Hobby Lobby. And I don't know, they quit, you know, with 9/11, the whole miniature market changed. And they downsized, all the craft stores downsized their... Oh, I did take I did take these two drawers off. If you want to get this was not open. It had the same doors right here, and I just took them off so that I'd have that whole surface. Okay, so let's look at what's back here. Is, of course, the file cabinet. And this came off Temu, this little fan. You'll need to, you know, put some black on it because they just come in one color. And I've got the files back here and one of his medical books and some keys to the front door and to the cabinets. And, of course, just filled with files. He's got the whole town's files all in here. Everybody's business. And down here is the tissues that go on the table after each patient. And I think the only thing I have left to do is make some cereal box frames for all the little posters, all the little eye chart and all those on this wall. I do need to make those. So here's his little chair, has his little doctor's bag on it, but it has a file with all the labs that have come back that he needs to call the different people and give them their lab reports before the nurse has to file them. Okay, so I was telling you about the phone, that this was the other phone I had, and I couldn't decide between what phone should go in here. And this one they called Bakelite. I was looking it up online, and it was called Bakelite. Like the material was like the first plastics or something. But they kept, everything I was seeing was putting this from anywhere from 1930s to 1960s. So I wasn't sure they were correct on that. So I just stayed with the candlestick design. And it may have been that one company that made it earlier, and then another company in another area made it later. Don't know. So I've got it connected to the little box with the bells that I made. And so we've got little glasses. And there's a couple of styles of doing these pins. This is his little pin that you make out of a bugle bead. I think we'll have to make one of these. It's real simple, but we'll have to make some pins, because we all know how to make the pencils out of the toothpicks. And so he's got that, and he's got his doctor pad. This is a cute desk because it allows for putting things in, but you have to get your tweezers if you want to pull them out. I keep hitting the camera, I'm sorry. So see his cute little pad with the RX on it, or the R. And just some little notes there, and his little pen. And I made an inkwell, and he's got the town directory back here. And that cute little telephone. I remember my grandmother had one of these. She had the church one, and then she had the one that she had all her notes in for all her friends. And they'd sit on that gossip bench and talk, and that was in the hallway. And he's got files that he's still, helping people. And the phone was off the hook because he was looking something up so he could tell them what treatment. And I just made a video making the cigarettes. Now, this was supposed to be funny because doctors didn't know how bad cigarette smoking was, and he's particularly bad. He looks like a chain smoker here with all the cigarettes in his ashtray. And so I show you how to make this, and you can see one's still burning right now. It's got the little wisp of smoke. So if you want to go to that video, you can see how to make them. And so here's this little inkwell. He wants to use that ink pen. And then I made a little ink bottle with a pony bead. I have everything down with putty because I move things around. And here's his medical books, and then here's a book with the records. And this has got to be the easiest miniature ever, making this little tissue box. It literally is a 1/4 inch by 1/4 inch, and you just cut out a little place, and then as soon as you finish painting it, you just stick the corner of the tissue down in there with glue. And that's it. That's all you do. And it makes a cutie little mini. I don't know what they used at that time specifically for tissues. if they had box tissues, because the ladies all had hankies, so I don't guess they had box tissues yet. I don't know. I'll have to look that up when a box tissue came into play. Now, I made all this. Here's his coat for when he has to go to the hospital and treat a patient. He has to wear his coat over his street clothes. I think I need to glue the arms down. They just stand out so much. Or iron them or something. And I made this little hat. It's out of some needlepoint or cross-stitch fabric. And I just stiffened the fabric and then cut out the design. And I made this little cane. You can just put a little glue dot at the end so that it thickens it up a little bit to look like the piece that's at the end. So this was my first attempt at carving, and I was more concerned, the legs are kind of big to me. I was more concerned at getting them similar legs so it would stand straight than I was at getting the shape and keeping working in them. I think they do need to be worked out a little bit better. Next time I'll do a better job, because you get better and you get better every time you do something. So I just took this piece and cut in. So this is some galvanized wire that I got from the home store. And so I just notched out a little area so that I could glue that in, and I had to glue it. I think I used like the super glue gel, I think was what I tried. Different things to get them to stay, but I couldn't use the jewelry craft wire because it's too soft, so I had to go to the galvanized, because this is very firm wire. If you're doing any project where like a stool or something where you don't want it to bend, because the craft wire really does bend easily. So then I notched this little piece, whittled this little piece to go up on top, and then just angled this down. You can see it's just kind of angled. Anyway, it's not the best, but it's like, and I just came to a point there. But I had never done any whittling, so I'm happy I got going on it. I'm happy I got to try it. And that's what's important when you're, if you haven't made something and you need to try it. Even if it's not that great, you'll be proud of yourself just for trying it. And so I look at it that way. That next time I'll do a better job, and I might try something a little more difficult. So let me just set all this back in. Now, I did light these. I bought those Temu battery lights, and I think they're great when it's a small project like this is. They're real nice on a room box. I think it's a lot of work on a dollhouse, and I talked about that recently when I showed you how to wire with the fairy lights that you can get at Dollar Tree. I showed you how to wire a lamp that I made. So you might want to go to that video. But so these pop down. They have up at the top, I have just glue dotted it, literally, a battery that comes, a magnet that comes with them that magnetizes to the battery. And so you need to pull them off to turn them on and to turn them off. And the problem, now the way I made this box, I intended to get natural light into it and keep all the dust off of it. And so I did do all this plexiglass at the top, and plexiglass, goes across here and tucks in to each side in the corners. And I do get a lot of natural light, so anytime I'm looking at it from a distance, anyway, I pass by it, then I can see in it without the lights being on. Where if this was wood on top, it would hold the light better, but it would cut out all the light and you wouldn't see all the little miniatures in the back. And so I thought that was, because every box I design and make. I'm really making it for the project. And maybe one day I'll come across a design that's universal. But so far I make them for how I'm going to use that, particular diorama. So I'm thinking I may go to using lights that will go onto a transformer. And I said I would talk about that, and I've got some stuff on order to be able to. I've got to get some things in before I can show you that video on just a small scale, and then work towards a bigger scale. Now let's look at, I'm putting all this back in, but we want to look at this shelf over here. Before we go and look at the, put this back in. Okay, so we're wanting to look at this shelf. I want to show you something I carved, and it's so simple. These little pieces right here and here, I carved those. Let me see if I can get in here better to show you. There's one in the drawer as well. But I made all these pieces in the shelf. If you can see back in, you can see this shelf that's back in here. And I just did a video on how to make the shelves. If you want to learn how to make shelves using regular chair rail pieces, they make wonderful shelves. So let me tell you about the, like I said, I'd never carved anything, and it was super simple. You just take like this 1/4 by 1/4 piece of wood, and you just draw out your piece, and it's got to be smaller on the end, like toothpaste, like something you'd roll up. Just remember, you roll up from the end, so the end needs to be the smallest. And you just draw it on that side, and then you draw it on this side, and all you do is just whittle off those sides, and then you cut it from the front where the I don't know, the nipple part of it is at the front. Then you just, after you've gotten the two sides cut, and I only cut one side to show you, then you cut that off and start whittling around to get your front part done, smoothed out. But it really takes no effort, and I didn't lose the tip. The tip stayed on the two that three, actually I did the bottle too. So, but use new wood. I think that newer wood is softer, because this wood that I'm doing now is a little more difficult. And this piece right here, this bottle, this is made from the oddest piece of, look at that oval shape of a glue stick. You've probably never seen a glue gun. I don't know, I've never seen a glue gun that's oval shaped. But I found these at this craft resale place. Everybody donates all their craft supplies so they don't go in the landfill. And if you don't have one of these in your town or around you, you should advocate for somebody starting, to put that together, because it's amazing how much stuff gets donated. And then they turn around and resell it. And it's all craft supplies. The teachers shop there. The kids shop there for the summer supplies. And I get all kinds of good things there. So, there's all these, there's one of those little pieces down here. And you can put any label on these because, you can't read the labels. So they're so tiny. So anyway, I just always have fun coming back to this and making something else. Now here's where I just made these freestyle. This is a kidney shaped little bowl, and this was my second one. I haven't really sanded it out yet, but you just shape it and then start sanding once it's dried. Just take whatever file you have or a rolled up piece of sandpaper and just work on slowly sanding it out, and then outer edges to thin them down, and then paint it and darken the edge around it. And you can also do paper quilling. Paper quilling is so simple, and you just I just freehand the paper quilling. I'm not going to spend a lot of time like putting my ruler down and cutting it and all that, or drawing on it. I just cut it out by eye, and then I just glue the pieces together. And then once I got that, then I just start making a bowl shape. You just gently, start pushing it till you get it, and then work on getting the layers even. And then you want to glue the inside first so that you can work on using your nail file to shave down the paper on the outside. And so I made this bowl, and you just do layers of Mod Podge, and put your paint in your Mod Podge, or if you have glossy paint, just use your glossy. And just go over it with lots of layers. You can also try to fill it in with wood glue. There's a lady, that Tiny View. She does phenomenal paper quilling projects and miniatures. And I just do the basic little stuff. But it's just an easy, inexpensive. And this is just a piece of old paper that, didn't work out through the printer, that was thrown in the trash. So what better than to make a little bowl out of it rather than throw it away. And you can use all kinds of trash plastic to make things, but like this little piece, that just turned out to be a little tiny bowl. And it took nothing to make, just to cut the little pieces for it. So you can make a lot of things. You can use these clamshell is what this is called. It's on things you buy, and just keep those and make little miniature pieces out of that. And you can put those in here. And you can use the pony beads. Like I made these just earlier, these little pony beads, and those are those the little gold things. Can't think what to call them. That they use in scrapbooking to notebooks and stuff. I can't think of what they're called, but anyway, this is just a little piece of tubing that came off of something. And see, if you cut this brass part off and use your super glue, there you go, you've got a top, and you can put medical supplies in that. And you can also put it into, super glue it, put it into a medical color. They had the blue and medical stuff, and the green, and then white and stuff. Now this would be good if it was silver, and I'm going to look for them in silver. But doesn't it look like a Noxema bottle? It seems like I remember my grandmother had Noxema. And so you can use those for little tops with your pony beads. And this is like my dog's pill pack. And I showed this in my chemistry lab. I did all trash plastic in the chemistry lab, if you want to look at that video. And you can just paint that with your white glossy or Mod Podge and white paint, and make a little tray to put your instruments in. And then I showed you this, that, you just cut that out and paint it. And then you've got a bowl, just like the ones I made out of clay, if you don't have clay. And here's my eye medicine comes in these little tubes. And if you cut the back end off of that, this looks just like a bottle. And you can cut the cap even smaller. But it is a little bottle. It's perfect for doing trash plastic. And you can use a paper clip to make the stethoscope. Just use glue to thicken up, or a little piece of clay or paper or whatever you want to use to thicken it up. But that would definitely, be easy enough to make the stethoscope. Well, I can't get it off of there because it's glued down. So, see the shape of the stethoscope? Just use this. So there's all kinds of ways that you don't have to buy all the miniatures. And you can even make you could make these out of metal. Just super glue the metal together. I've just been collecting them for years. I mean, like 20 years I put this together and just keep adding to it and making things for it. I just love it. So I'm real happy to show it to you. So I may, like I said, I may go to wired lighting that, and I'll show you that process when I get some things in to change out from battery, because the battery is making the light, the plastic on my other box is starting to droop. And also these lights, you know, I don't have the wood up here, so they're just the magnets show. I don't know, they're okay too. So let's look at the waiting room. Now I just recently did a video on how to make the carved shelf in here. And you have this elderly couple, they're just worried because they're afraid they're going to have to see the intern instead of the regular doctor that they know so well. And so they're real nervous about it. And now I didn't put a wall over here so that natural light would light this up. And you can see over here, I did have to because there's a toilet in there. And it didn't make sense to have that open clear. And I'm going to put a piece of this lace that I bought. But I didn't put it up there because I want us to be able to see in. So let's look at this. See that little shelf in the corner? That's what I've been working on to make a carved shelf. Now, I'm sorry, my lights. Let's see my lights. Putting a bad reflection on there. So, believe it or not, that hat was like yellow or pink. I got a package of them from Temu, and they were yellow and pink. Now, the rug I made, one of my very first miniatures, was a braided rug. So that was one of my very first. After I built my dollhouse, I made rugs to go. And, of course, that's, you know, using embroidery thread. So, I want to show you this. If you want to go to the video, you can see how this little shelf is made. But, again, this was what we made. What the last video was making cigarettes, and I made the little cigarette stand. Of course, they didn't know that cigarettes were so bad for them. But you can see this one's still smoking. Even though somebody put it out, it didn't completely go out. So it's still, well, I guess it comes into focus. See, it's still smoking. And the red lipstick on this one. I know my grandmother smoked, and she wore red lipstick. And she was a garden lady, and she was a church lady. But it looked good on her. Her red lips and her red nail polish looked very good on her. I was always fascinated with my grandmother. She could just transform herself with what she wore. And I was just her shadow. We went everywhere together. We went to the green stamp store and the gold stamps, and we'd go get coupon groceries and just have so much fun. And she taught me how to play cards. Now I made these little umbrellas. That's just super simple. It's that galvanized wire, and you just take fabric and make a big circle and hem, and I can show that to you if you're interested. But literally, this was a package, and if you heat them up, you can use your alcohol pens to paint them. I colored it with the alcohol pen. And then I used the heat gun because they're plastic underneath this fabric that's an overlay, kind of a fabric, kind of fuzzy fabric. And so then I shaped it to look like a man's fedora. You can see the shaping in it. And I did this some months ago, and it's still holding the color from the alcohol pen, and it still kept its shape from using the heat gun on it. So I think it turned out real good. You know, my grandfather always wore a hat everywhere he went. even, you know, in the 80s, and he was always wearing his hat. Here's one of my lamps that I built, and then the little carved shelf is what I wanted it to hold the lamp. And I'm going to electrify that lamp. I just have to drill the holes, have to drill everything bigger to electrify it. So, yeah, I wanted to wallpaper this side and make it a little prettier than the sterile side of the doctor's office. And I think, you know, that they would want to do that to give a nice environment for the patients to sit and wait. That they'd want it, you know, because they give you magazines. So that's that part. Let's see if we can get to the window of the bathroom. It's right here. And let's see if we can see anything. Can you see there's the back of the toilet and the toilet paper, and there's the shelf that has all these little miniatures on it. And there's a sink. There's a sink in there. And a mirror. And if you go up here, you can see down in and see what's on the shelf a little bit. If it's not too fuzzy. Sorry if it's too fuzzy. It's just not, it's got the plexiglass, so it may be that it's not going to show it as well. But anyway, if you're in person, you can see how cute it is. And there's little paper hand towels all crumpled up to look like the doctor washes his hands really well. And then there's soaps and tissue and all. Yeah, I first had this plexiglass on this side, and I thought, well, that can't be with a toilet. You can't have plexiglass. So I went back and put a wall in it, and then put the window. And then I'll just put the lace curtain over it. But just kind of an added fun thing to see on the back side. So now I've got it finally. I think this is finally it, and I'm not going to put no more rooms. And this is the final doctor's office. I think I'm pretty much through, except for maybe redoing the wiring. And let me show you this pack. This type of wiring, I got this at Hobby Lobby. They had this little strip. You might have seen this. And it comes with a line that goes to a transformer. And this, now I bought this a while back, and it was only $12 then. I don't know. The pricing has changed because they don't put things on sale in the miniatures, or, you know, they don't have the coupons anymore. So see, it comes with all this cording, and then the cording, you plug in your lights. Instead of having them plugged into a battery or go into a battery pack, you plug them into here, and then this goes into a transformer, and the transformer plugs into your house power. Your like, I'm in a garage, so this would go into the garage wall. And we built this. We ripped out all the insides, and I put in electrical wiring in the garage here. So I'm going to wire into the wiring I built. So it's pretty cool. So this is one version of how you do dollhouse wiring, is with the transformer. And this is just a easier. Now this transformer is small, and it will power 10 light bulbs, not lights, but light bulbs. And so this shows 12 slots, so you can't use all 12 to be with this transformer. You have to use what the transformer says, or else you'll drain your lights. If you use too few, you can blow too much power to your lights. If you have too many lights, then you drain them, the bulbs. If you have too few lights, then you'll put so much power to them. So you really do have to try to learn how to match your transformer size to the number of of bulbs. And, you know, some lights can have 4 bulbs, because like this one has 3. This battery, that's 3 bulbs. So you add them up that way, and including a, you know, a fireplace or anything else. But this is all 12 volts, and it's a good idea to get a little booklet or a video or something and just familiarize yourself. And you can never watch it enough, and take notes and just familiarize yourself with it before you wrap your head around buying stuff. You want to know, you know, what pieces to buy, what you don't want to buy so much that you don't end up using it, because it is expensive. We all know that. Wiring is expensive. And so I did a video on how to do battery lights using the fairy lights, and the fairy lights at Dollar Tree are $1.25. So that's such a good deal. But, you know, you have to put batteries in them, and they're only good, you know, for a smaller display or diorama. So, oh, I was going to tell you about this little clock. That's a button in the center, and it's got a clock face, and it's an old bronzy little button. And so I've literally just got it stuck in there. I didn't want to glue it in. It's just puttied in there. And I'm going to try to see about making a casting of it. See how that turns out. Because I started collecting buttons to make a button bracelet. My grandmother had a button bracelet, and I just thought that was so cute. Somebody had made for her. And so I came across my buttons the other day when I was making an ashtray for, I was doing the ashtrays. I was trying this plant stand and turned it into a little, with a button back, turned it into a cigarette ashtray. And if you have a plant stand, you could use it that way. If you want to use, you know, this other one has buttons, or beads. I use beads to make it. It's like this one's beads. These are those acrylic beads that we all got. Oh my gosh, we all got bags of them. And you made vases out of them, painted them and stuff. But you can use a little plant stand if you want. This was a pewter one. So anyway, this is my doctor's office, and I thank you for coming to visit me. Please like, share, and subscribe. I'm trying to grow my channel, and I really appreciate all your views and all your comments. I just so enjoy talking to everybody and getting to know people that are in the miniature world here and in the community. So thank you so much.